You probably look at the fretboard and think, how am I meant to understand all of this? Well, don't fret, and sorry for the pun. We're going to show you lots of simple ways to understand the fretboard and really open up your guitar. The next thing we want to do is think about octave shapes. And so that sounds like a really frightening thing, but it happens all over the fretboard. And an octave is when you go from, here's my G, here's my G again, and essentially I've gone up an octave. So I've gone from, there's my two Gs, and that was an octave shape. And that octave shape is what we call the E octave shape. So here's my E, and here's my E note right here. If I go up 2 strings and up 2 frets, so that's my octave shape. Or I could think about it going the opposite way. I'm going to the lower octave. I would go down 2 strings and down 2 frets. And that shape everywhere on the fretboard, except when it gets messed up by the riff. And so the riff is between the G right here and the B string. From the G string to the B string, you actually have to move forward a fret. This is an E major chord shape. If you move it down, this finger, which was here on the G string, goes onto the B string. And guess what happens to maintain the relationship? It has to move forward one. And so when the E shape, this is an E major shape, moves down, it actually becomes this shape. And it only changes because we cross the riff. If we move this A shape down a string, now the finger that was on the G string here has to move forward one. And so we get the D shape. Always remember that the riff is there, so your tried and true octave shape gets impacted by the riff. Here's my D, my open D string. To use the E octave shape, I would go down 2 strings and up 2. And does that sound the same? No, I'm playing a 7th because I crossed the riff. So I have to go, when I cross the riff, I have to go down 2 and up 3 to get that shape. This is an octave shape which is in my E. So this is my low E, the root of the chord, and here's another E in my E. So when I play an E, I've got my low E, I've got my mid E, and I've got my high E. So I'm actually, if I'm playing a full E, there's a lot of E in that E. And so that's one of the reasons why E is one of the most friendly guitar chord families. And that's because 2 of my open strings are in E. If I played the second, so I'm playing very simple, not full chord shapes, because the E's are playing out, because I'm in the key of E. All of this comes back to the octave shape for E, which is whatever note I have, which is here's E, I go up 2 strings, and then I go up 2 frets to find E again. You could string your octave shapes together. I got my E octave, I'm going to go up 2 strings and up 2 frets. There's my E, so E, E. But I could do it again, so I'm going to go up 2 strings. 1, 2, oh damn it, I've crossed the riff, so I'm going to actually have to go up 3. There's an E again. And I could do it again, except I've run out of strings. If you're enjoying learning from this video, there's more. This lesson was taken from our book 2020 Fretboard Clarity, which walks you through 20 notes that will open up the entire fretboard. It goes into depth on how to really understand and easily navigate your entire guitar. And it's out now. So the next octave shape is the C shape. Here's my trusty C chord shape. And if you know your chord, then you'll know that this on the A string is my C. So here's A sharp, B, there's my C shape. So if you know this, this is the root of the chord, but there's another C right here. So there's 2 C's in my C chord. And this shape right here, going from here to here, is my other octave shape. And this again shows up all across the fretboard. I'm going up 1, 2, 3 strings and along 2 frets. And there's my octaves right there on this C shape. So if I were here, don't know what that is, but I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3. And did it change? It did. And it changed because here I'm crossing the rift. And so what happens is when I go on the rift in this direction, if I go from the high strings to the low strings, it causes me to pull back. If I'm not crossing the rift, so let's choose D. So I have to be down here because I have to go up 3 frets, or I have to go back 3 frets. So here's my note. I'm going to go back 3 frets and then up those 3 strings. Here I'm playing a D, playing 2 Ds. I'm using this octave shape, but because I'm not crossing the fretboard rift, I actually have to be across 3 frets rather than just 2. So if I was down here then it would be just 2. As soon as I cross that fret, I don't have to. And so when I'm crossing the fret, this finger gets pulled back by a fret. When I'm not crossing the fret, then that finger doesn't get pulled back. So that shape, whether you're going from the low note to the high note or the high note to the low note, occurs all over the fretboard. We're going to try and combine all of those into thinking about where a note is. So we're going to go back to our E, our basic open E shape, and we can find E in a number of ways. So I've got my open E strings, and then I'll use my E octave shape to go down 2 strings, up 2 frets, and lo and behold, I've got another E. But I could also think about it, this E right here, in the context of the C octave shape. So I've got the C octave shape and it's crossing the fret. So here's my C octave shape showing up in my E chord shape. And so officially my mind is blown. So those octave shapes, even though I call them the E chord shape and the C chord shape, they are showing up in many different chords because that's just the way the octaves are kind of organized on your guitar fretboard. So this note, C octave chord shape right here, but so that's how I can find my high E. And then the last way to think about finding that note is to think of the chromatic scale. Chromatic scale is incredibly important. It's the scale which every other scale comes from. You just have to learn it. You just have to know where the sharps or the flats, depending which you're using, come from. And so if I go from my E down to my D, so from my D shape, how do I get to an E from a D? And so you have to know that in the chromatic scale, there's a D sharp, and then there's the E. So I can think of finding this E note using my E octave shape from low E. I can think about using the C octave shape from the high E, or I could think about using the chromatic scale going from D to the E. So D, D sharp, E. So thinking about all the different ways you can approach a chord to find other notes, or the same note, I should say. So lots of ways to kind of triangulate on the notes that you're trying to find and learn. The next rule that we're going to talk about is what I call the bead stack. And that is part of the circle of fifths, or circle of fourths actually. So I've just taken the circle of fourths and just narrowed it down to bead. Super simple word, very easy to learn, but then you might ask yourself, why? Why would I learn bead? The reason is because those notes show up together all over the fretboard. If I know where a B is, I immediately know where an E, A, and a D are. Here's a B. Here's an E. Here's an A. And here's a D. If I had another string on top of here, it would probably be a B right at the fret here. It's E, A, and D. So you've got part of your bead stack just built into the tuning of your guitar. So I can't emphasize how straightforward B, E, A, D, bead tuning is. And so what happens when you hit the riff? Same as it always does. I'm going to go to, here's my B. So here's my B on the A string. So guess what? Right below the B is the E. And we knew that because it's part of that E chord, so it's part of the E octave or the C shape coming up from the bottom. So B, E, A, and god damn it, we're just going to have to cross the riff and go forward one. Here's my D. So B, E, A, and D. Those notes are just always together. For real fluency in your music, think about everything going in both directions. What I mean by that is obviously bead is looking down this way. It's da ebb coming to the lower strings. Also think about my chromatic scale. I've got E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. That's me thinking about the chromatic scale. But I have to know it backwards too. So I have to go E, D sharp, D, C sharp, C, B, A sharp, A, G sharp, G. I mean, it's just much. I find them harder because I haven't practiced my fluency enough. And so always think about your fluency going forwards and back. Make sure to like and subscribe so you'll never miss out on all our tips and tricks.